Okay, so starting another video here in the morning, kind of morning voice. So if I don't lose it, coming down with a cold. So I was looking at the plans, and these struts here seem to be angled. So I'll show you where I got that from. Is right here on this former. You can see it comes out, and it comes up at not quite a 45-degree angle, probably 60 degrees, something like that. So I'm going to lean those over. Start by doing that. So first thing I need to do is make the fuselage see-through. Excuse me. Go to orthographic in the back view. I'm going to go to Effect Pivot Only, set it to Object, and I'm going to move that down to the very bottom, like so. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it to the, I guess it'd be more like 30 degrees, not 60 degrees, something like 30 degrees, there we go. Then we'll go to the Move tool and make sure you're on local here. And you'll see that view is what you're normally on. And pretty much just stays the way it's supposed to. You get a lot of different methods here. Screen doesn't really work. Sometimes parent will work when you're working in sub-object. So if you're working in a vert or something like that, go to parent. It'll follow the actual local pivot. So now that we're in local, we can just move this up so we're into the wing. Oops, there we go. Just want to be into the wing like so. And I don't really get an indication of how far in this is, other than to look at this picture here again. Looks like right at the midpoint. It comes out just maybe 2 inches up or something like that. So this might be in the wrong place. So if this is my midpoint, I don't know, it's pretty close, I guess. It looks pretty good to me. Okay, that's good. So what we'll do is we'll delete this guy here. Turn on the working pivot, pick this guy, and make a copy. So that's more like how the RC version is supposed to go. Okay, so now I'm going to make some wheels. These are kind of look like they're kind of balloon wheels, at least in the view I'm seeing here. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the left in orthographic. I'm going to zoom in on the wheel here, and I want to use a torus. The torus comes out as a gigantic object, so just kind of roughly the right size and shape. Like so. Okay, and go over here into the settings, and we need to set a radius. Well, we've set the radius, so that looks about right, I guess. Okay, so we can dial up how many sides that we want, or dial them down. I'm going to put in as many sides as 13, 14 looks right. And it's important we have a center line. That'll come in handy when we're mapping later. Okay, and then as far as segments, 24 is pretty good. You know, this is something that you actually see rotating, and you know, it can be a little bit lumpy, but when it stops, if it's really low, you know, it's kind of noticeable. So as a preference for me, I'm usually around 24 or 26 segments. So, alright, this torus is pretty much set up for me, much as I need it to be. So I'm going to convert it to an editable poly, and I'm going to go in and select these 3 rings here, or these 3 edges there, and I'm going to loop that selection, and then I'm going to convert that into a poly selection, and that's going to give me 4, like so. And I'm just going to delete those. Now I'm going to grab the border tool here and select both of the borders, and I'm going to cap them up. Okay, so I'll zoom back in, use Alt X so we can see through. Okay, so I'm not really seeing any special detail, so I'm just going to make up my own. So what I'll do is select these both. I'll work these at the same time, and I'm just going to extrude outward. And like settings box just gives me a lot more control than the interactive tool. I like it better. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a rim, a little bit that sticks up here. Okay, and then now with both of them still selected, I'll just use inset, and I'll dial that back to say here. Then I'll go back to extrude, and we're going to give it some negative, pull it in a little bit, like so. Okay, and let's inset one more time, and drag it way in, like about so. Then we're going to hold Control and go to Vertex and use the scale tool. Let's just scale these guys out. Put a bubble to it. Kind of looks good like that, I think. So now with everything turned off, let's see how fattening the wheel looks. First off, I'm going to want to affect the pivot only center to object just to make sure. Sometimes you make an object, the center is put off to one side, and scaling just doesn't work right. So let's just scale this up, or wider, to make more like a balloon tire. There we go. And while we're here, we're going to set smoothing groups right away. So I'm going to select that center guy there, and I'm going to select one of the polys here and hold Shift and select the next one. Holding Control, select one, and hold Shift and select another one here. I'm going to hold Control and Shift and select the next one. Holding Control, select another one. Shift select. Okay, and we're going to call this smoothing group 1. You can see we've got pretty much what we're doing is just skipping sets of polys. So if this is in the selection, this won't be in the selection. Then this one can be. This one isn't. You can see that nothing that we've selected is touching. So we're going to put that in smoothing group 1, and then I'm going to hit Control I, and it'll invert the selection, and we'll get everything else. We're going to put that into smoothing group 2. Deselect here just to see how it looks. Looks pretty good. Okay, so now we get to move it an arbitrary amount outward. You can see here this in the plans. I don't know how well this is going to show, but this is all we have for a drawing, is this small front view of the dural gear. So what I'm kind of looking for is off the corner of the fuselage, which would set right here in this spot here. Just going to try to look at this angle and set the wheel outside of that. So just eyeballing it. So it comes off the corner, looking at this kind of angle. Something like that ought to work. Okay, and then wanting a new wheel here, we can just go to use working pivot, and you know what? Yeah, I'll do it that way later on. What I usually do is I get this all set up and export out for RealFlight, and then I map it and get it ready for color scheming. So we're just going to move this guy back, and that's going to be our tail wheel, but you can see the tail wheel's a little bit different, quite a bit less detail. So I'm just going to start from this wheel. Oops, and we'll select the hub, and I'm just going to grow yeah, let's grow all the way out, and we're going to delete, and with the border tool selected, we'll select these borders, which it's already selected from last time, and cap, and then I'm going to grab these polys again. I'm going to scale them in. You know what? Let's inset that in, because it's pulling on the roundness here of the tire. It's taken away from that. So let's just inset it down. And let's look at the tire picture again. Yeah, that tire goes all the way in, doesn't it? It's like most of the tire. So let's try the scale thing again. You know what? It might just be best just to start with a new Taurus that will look a lot more like this. So I have to be in left view and orthographic for this to work. Starting from the center and pulling out. Okay, that's not working. Turn the grid on. There we go. I wasn't in the left view. Like I said, you have to be. So out to the full height here. Bring it right in to that hub. Okay. And I'm going to go over to the Modify tab to change the segments. I'm going to actually lower the segments for this back tire because it's so much smaller and so much less noticeable. So we'll go down to about 14. And we can roll our sides down to maybe 10. There we go. So now it's we're going to make it editable poly. And I'm going to select just the center edge here. Loop that, and then control click on polygon. And delete these polys. Oh, sorry, border tool, and select border and cap. Now we just want to select the two hubs here and put them in smoothing group 1, control I, and put them in smoothing group 2. Okay, so pretty much have wheels set. Back to perspective. Okay, so now we'll make the dural gear. So okay, I have a side view, and go into left, and let's just get rid of. Let's hide the fuselage for right now, and I'm going to go over and create a box. I'm going to make that box the same width as the landing gear is here, and make it the right thickness, and then pull this out a little bit. Okay, I'll bring the fuselage back, and from this view and convert that to a poly. I'm going to grab these edges and pull them right onto the edge. Like so. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just grab this edge here, and from this view I'm going to try to replicate the right angle here by pulling this edge back, and I need it to angle, the face needs to point at the hub here, pretty much at the hub. There we go. And one problem we'll have is that the extrusion is going to be, it'll end up being thicker, so we'll have to modify that a bit. So, okay, from the front view we're going to extrude that all the way out. To about right there. Matter of fact, these wheels may need to go out a little bit wider. So I'm going to drag that to about right there. Okay, then I'm going to take this face, take that face there, and let me get rid of grid because it's getting pretty crazy to view this. And then I'm going to see if going to parent helps or local. There we go. That's going to allow me to push this face in. And then I'm going to grab these corner verts here, and with edge constraints on, and go back to view for the coordinate system. I'm going to drag this down until it gets square again. And that way we gotta get something that's a little more correct with the thickness. Okay, so next thing is to make this see-through here, and last thing I'm going to do is to tilt this, so I'm going to approximate these distances here. So I'm going to move this forward, and let me just turn none off because it's really not necessary. So I'm going to bring this off just a little bit, and I'm looking at this gap here and this gap here in the drawing, so that when I rotate the dural gear, it's going to be right on. Okay, so you hide this wheel, and we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to grab that edge and we convert that to vertex by holding control. Go to edge and just going to pull up on these, oops, until this is nice and flat. And I definitely need to be in orthographic back view to make sure this is correct. You can see the aliasing here in this line. What we're looking to do is get that nice and flat. Okay, and then I'm just going to move that back in, make it look a little thinner. Okay, great. And I'm going to go to poly and extrude downward. So bringing the wheel back, I'm going to actually move this over. Go back to extrude. I'm just going to make sure this goes past the hub. And then last thing to do here is to go into left view and rotate. Rotate this. 5 degrees is too much, so I'm going to turn snaps off. Okay, that's pretty good there. And now I just need to make it follow the fuselage by moving these verts in. These verts are on the 0, so that's good. Okay. Okay, so now just to make this look a little more realistic, because metal doesn't have perfect, you can't get a perfect edge like this. I'm going to select these two edges, and I'm going to put a small chamfer on them. And then of course it creates a stupid problem here, but I'm just going to target weld these in each corner. It takes a second. I wish it worked better. I really do. But this is a common problem. You can see that that it really did just put a flat edge in there, so we're going to have to move those in. So I'll just continue to target weld this in. And you know, after every Boolean operation or weld like this or whatever, let me hide unselected here. Target weld. After every operation, you need to go back and make sure that that everything's like you want it, and there's nothing screwed up, so that you can get a lower poly count. You want the right looks, but you want everything to flow together nicely and keep your poly count super low. I may be rambling again. So put this in smoothing group 1 along with this one and this one, and that's, it should be obvious by now, I guess, that edges that aren't touching, that are 90 degrees from each other like these two, can be in the same smoothing group. And I just put a couple edges here so that we can put all of those in the same smoothing group. So I'm going to clear this, I'll call this smoothing group 1, and then this will be this one here at the bottom, and that can be smoothing group 2. Alright, and then there is probably enough curve here to put. Yeah, so let's just go to select by smoothing group 5 and 6, or 5 and 7, which are oddball selections. We'll get rid of those by clearing them. Then we'll select both the current smoothing groups, and then by hitting Control I, I'll get the opposite, and then I can put those into a final smoothing group, which is 3. Okay, looks pretty good. Now I'm going to actually delete this poly, and I'm going to do a symmetry. Need to, there we go. So that's what we're looking for. Then we want to weld at 0.01, and then we'll collapse it. Let's unhide. I'm going to just do another quick copy of this tire. Alright, now the problem I'm noticing is and I just don't have enough angle here, so I'm going to select the dural gear again. I'm going to grab these bottom verts, and I'm just going to drag the bottom over. And probably select these guys here. Those guys there. Slide those in a little bit more. Okay, so that would be the landing gear for those. Alright, and this looks like it's just going to be a block. So I click on the left and turn on the grid. And I'm going to create a box here. I'm going to start at this bottom corner, and I'm just going to drag up, and no, I think it's a cylinder and a straight piece here, if I remember right. You know what, it would help if I knew much about RC. So anyways, so we create a box. It's good there. Let me first go to pivot only, center the pivot. That way I can go up here to view, so I'll get the right numbers here at the bottom. Now I can center that up. I'm going to quickly hide everything and convert this to an editable poly. And in vertex mode, go to target weld and target weld these guys up. This is going to be inside the plane, so this poly, it's just going to count towards the poly count that we just don't need. Just don't need it in the poly count, that's what I meant to say. Okay, crazy far away. Alright, so now I'm going to go and create a cylinder, and I'm going to center it right here as close as I can, make it the appropriate size cylinder, drag it up. Default is to, if I go back to Modify tab, is to have 5 sides in the segment, or 5 height segments. I don't need 18, no way. 8 will look smooth for this, it should look fine. Okay, and then I'm going to just go ahead and center that to this. Unhide all. Drag this back down to the bottom here. Looks like it's about the right diameter already. Drag it up to the top. Like so. And I'm going to rotate it in increments here. There we go. And yeah, then it just flows and it flows together much nicer. For some odd reason, it just doesn't look like it's lining up perfectly. Oh, probably because I don't have it pivoted correctly. And that's because of that 5-degree thing. That's pretty good right there. That's pretty good. Alright. So now I'm going to just attach this here. And then in left view, zoom back in, rotate this to the correct degree and move it into position. You know, I don't have the right angle. and it looks like there's another little wooden block maybe on top, so I'll do an extrusion to get that to look right. Okay, allow me to make this conform a little better. I'm going to go up here to local again, and let's grab the face, because that'll behave a little more properly. Okay. And I'm going to put this to edge and go back to view, because that'll just force it to follow them anyways. Okay. Alright, great. So now I'm going to pick this border and just going to extrude up. Cannot do that with edge constraints on, so I'm going to hold shift and pull this up. With edge constraints on, I'm going to pull this over. With edge constraints off, I'm going to pull this over. Okay. That looks pretty good. Alright, so now let's just create a line that's going to use the line tool to create this this gear here. So go to create and go over to the shapes selection here and go to line. And it looks like that the wire would go into the rudder, and then I'm going to put a couple clicks for the bend here. And then I'm going to have it contour to the rudder, so I'm going to put one there. Same thing again, a couple of clicks. Drag that down through the bottom. Click, click, click. Drag it over to here. Click, click, click. Drag it right down to the center of the tire. And use the right click to get that to go away. Then I'm going to go over here to the Modify tab, and under Rendering, I'm going to say Enable in Viewport, and it's huge. So I'm going to go here to Thickness, drag my thickness down until it's about what I'm looking for, like so. There we go. And right now it has 12 sides. We're going to just type in 8 here. We only need 8 sides. And let's see now. Okay, so now I'm going to take the tire here. No, I need to know where the bend is. So I'm going to go around to the front view. How does this gear work? Right, we need to move the wire. And it's to the visible side, it looks like. So it's the wire moves off to the side. So no worries, we're gonna pick this and actually grab. Let me turn these off for a second. And I'm going to pick this and the line, and I'm going to hide unselected so that I can get a top view on this. Okay, and then just the line. We'll check out the nodes. Okay, we're going to put a turn in these guys here. So we'll pull this up. from a top view, I need to see this right here. Okay, and then I'm not too familiar with all this stuff, but I think I go down here to insert, and I can insert a new one. So like this, then I'll insert one here, right click, oh sorry, I guess it's 2 clicks, so we want to click here, click there again, and then right click. I'll go back to this guy, round him off, pull the corner in, and since I can insert, yeah, I'm gonna insert another bend here. So I'm just clicking once, pulling away, and then this drags out. I'm gonna just right click, and then that'll go away. So now what I'm gonna do is drag these guys down. So the center one is right in the middle of the tire, and I'm going to pull these guys through. No, I'm going to pull just this one through. It's just on the other side. Pull them straight up, like so. So he's in line with the middle of the tire. And make the tire visible, or X-rayed. Okay, so now I'm going to move this guy in line. Like so. Pull this guy down, pull this guy back, and then put this in here so it's a little bit more gentle of a turn. And then I may just need to move all of them over to straighten the gear out. Like so. I love how this happens. So I'm going to select everything down here at the bottom and drag it up. Okay, I'm going to drag it up till this isn't about the center of the tire. I need to drag these guys up until right here. And basically I'm just using this line in 3 dimensions so that I can have an easier time working with a cylinder. I mean, you end up with a cylinder, but this is so much easier. There we go. And right now it's not centered on the tire perfectly or anything like that, but that'll work. So I'm going to go back up here to Enable and Renderer. Enable and Viewport, sorry. And last thing I need to do is to make sure that the wire's not intruding here. So I go back to these points and just drag them outwards. And grab this point here so it comes out beyond the tire. Alright. Okay, and then last thing to do would be to convert that to an editable poly. Unhide all. So turn that grid back off, and let's bring the tire back. So now it's a little hard to see what's going on here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these hubs so that I can get a vertex selection here. Well, get the border selection, and I'll hold shift and scale in the Z and Y just a little bit, then I'll hold control and convert to vertex. And I have to do this one side at a time, so I want to select just this border, switch to vertex, go down to collapse, and back, same thing. I'm going to go to border, control, click on vertex, and collapse. So now I can see exactly where the center is, and I can pick the gear. And I'll just grab the verts, and I'm going to move it up into position here. That looks pretty good right there. Okay. So now basically what happens is if I were to link the wire to the rudder and then the wheel to the, let's see how far off this is going to be. If I rotate the rudder, yeah, the wiring comes out a little bit here and there, so that's something we'll be adjusting later, but basically this is how that style gear works. Okay, and let's see if we can make a stab at making these wheel pants. So there's a lot of different ways we could do it. Trying to think of the most efficient way, poly-wise. I don't know, maybe it's just best if we just do the sphere. So I'm going to, in the left view here, and drag out a sphere. Then I'm going to rotate the sphere 90 degrees, so it'd be good if I had that clicked. Sorry, if I had that clicked. Snaps. Okay. So now I'll get it turned so that the pole is at the very point here. Very good. So I'm going to go and change my segments now, so I don't need a million segments. What I'm looking for is that I have a center line this way and one up the middle on any one of these divisions. 20 sides I have what I want, and at 16 sides, so I'm going to go with 16. Okay, and then let's just convert this to a poly. And again, I'm just going to kind of get it in position. And I'm going to go to vertex, and then this is where it stops meeting the shape. So I'm going to pull this back until it's as far back as this is here. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull it all the way back. Alt-X. Okay, I'm going to center that up using my center line here between these two corners. Okay, I'm just going to grab these polys at the end and delete them. And I'll select this border and I'll cap it. So now we have a whole object again, but it's not rounded. So now I'm just going to shrink these down. Like so. And these right here could be moved up a little. And I'm going to actually hide the landing gear stuff so I can see what I'm doing better. Okay, so back to this. And I'm just going to grab these edges and make a connection. I'm just going to use the green handle and swell it up. So it's a lot like making a like box modeling a fuselage. So that's about the center of that. What I'm looking for is, like, I've just made a midpoint here. I've made it to that size. I'll make a new midpoint and I'll swell that till it meets, and just continue dividing like that until it looks round. So go back, swell it back up. Okay, it actually looks a little big. There we go. Get this edge, connect. It's pretty good. And this one looks like it's just needs a connection in a particular place, probably about right here. And I'll move it first. And then just a little bit of swell to it. So that's the basic shape there. Okay, and imagine here in the back things are tightened down quite a bit, and let me use the wheel to help me shape it. So I'm going to unhide all, and I'm just going to center up the pivot on the wheel pad there, and then I will use the quick align tool and snap it right onto the wheel. Okay, and then in centering that up, we just lost positioning this direction of the tire in the center. So we're going to make it as thin as possible without the tire breaking through, and it's still making sense here, so like so, maybe a little bit bigger. There we go. And actually, if I make it about that big, we can use these polys here for the spot that the wheel comes out of. Yeah, okay, good. And then as we go beyond that, we need the back of this to taper off. And the front could probably taper a little bit as well. So I'm just going to taper this guy in. Why don't I just get everything out of my way so I can work efficiently here. There we go. Hide unselected. Grab the top view here. Alright, I'm going to go in vertex mode and do this. And this is just, I don't have enough detail to work with, so it's kind of just guessing and eyeballing. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to select these here and turn on edge. I'm going to slide these just outside the tire here. I'm going to grab these guys, slide it just up to the tire about the same distance, like so. Alright, then I'm going to make some connections here. No, I'm going to work it differently, I guess. So I'm just going to grab these polys, and I'm selecting through the tire here just to get a full selection, and then I'm going to delete those. Okay, so I'm going to grab this border and swell it out a little bit so the tire fits in there nice and neat, like so. Okay. That looks pretty good. I'm going to grab these edges here. I'm going to hold shift and see how well this works. Gotta make sure I'm not in edge mode, which I am. So I'm just going to shrink these in. Yeah, it doesn't really work. That's fine. So what I'll do instead is I'll bridge these connections, which is fine by me. Okay, and then let's see. Go to the poly tool here. Maybe inset. I just want to put a thickness here to this wall. I want it to be nice and uniform though, so I like using the tools for that. So to fix this up, I need to insert an edge across from this corner here and here, or insert a vertex. I keep saying the wrong things. It's a little too early in the morning, I guess. So I'm just going to pop these vertexes in, go to vertex, select the two, connect, connect, connect those guys up. Now I'm going to use target weld to weld these flat. Okay, great. So now I grab these here and I'm going to extrude them down. I don't care if it still intrudes on the tire. No one's going to see up that deeply. Okay, like so. I'm going to OK that, and then I'm going to grab the border tool here and just select across these two borders, and we'll cap. And then the last thing to do would be to just kind of make these quads by selecting these two inside ones and connect up to the corner here. There we go. Now we got quads going. Center, connect, connect. Okay, so now what we need to do is set smoothing groups, and this will be all set. So I'm going to grab everything here. deselect this stuff in here. Coming up on the 55 minutes here, so I need to hurry. Okay, so that could be smoothing group 1. Okay, and then going to Control I, and I'm going to just deselect these guys here. Deselecting those, that's going to be smoothing group 2. And we'll make this smoothing group 3. Okay, and then if we unhide everything, they don't look exactly like them. We'll probably end up tweaking them in the next video. So, I mean, but they'll work for now. Kind of high up on the. I'll just fix the opening. So now I'm going to go to the working pivot and mirror. And it seems as though we have some landing gear. So I'm going to make sure that I save here. Go back to perspective. Alright, so it looks like we have kind of a base model here. We got a rolling chassis, you know, we got something that's going to work in the sim. So, you know, at this point we could even just, you know, do the naming and pivots and send it into the sim and see how she works. But you probably won't do that. We're going to keep it compartmentalized because of the video. I normally would do something like that, but we'll get this completed, all the modeling completed, and I'll go through some mapping, and then we'll go through the naming and hierarchy, pivots, all that stuff, and then it will be exported and color scheme will be done, and we'll get it into the sim, and hopefully we'll have a finished plane in the next, I don't know, 10 videos. So alright, I'll see you in the next one.